Jessii Vee, and I'm very excited for today's video because it is a virtual collab with my sister Mandy Vee. We really wanted to do a video together in person like we always do because that's the best. But unfortunately, the area that we live is under lockdown and Mandy and I no longer actually live in the same house. So to abide by the rules, we are doing a virtual collab today. Now, the theme of today's video is horror movies that were based on real life events. So I'm gonna be telling you the very creepy origins of the movie The Ring. Now, even if you've never seen this horror movie or the horror movie my sister's gonna be talking about, it doesn't matter because it's so interesting to hear about the history of horror movies whenever they're based on like real life things. So before I get talking about this, my sister has some really awesome new merch up on our website. She has a mystery wellness box, she has some new socks, she has a whole bunch of really cool things. So I'm gonna link all that down below. We're also gonna be posting a video over on Mandy's channel, so definitely go check that out after this one. All right, so let's talk about the movie The Ring. Now, I personally love this movie. It's one of the best like classic horror movies to watch. Now, if you've never seen it, I'm going to sum it up for you. The whole movie is basically about this cursed videotape. And if you sit down and watch the whole thing, as soon as you're done watching it, your phone will ring. And when you pick it up, someone on the other end of the phone says, 7 days. So essentially, you find out that you only have 7 days to live, which is horrifying. Now, in the 2002 version of this movie, a journalist named Rachel Keller finds out that her niece died after watching this mysterious tape. So she decides to go out undercover to find out where this tape came from, why it's cursed. She basically wants to figure out this mystery. She ends up visiting this place called the Shelter Mountain Inn, the infamous place where her niece Katie and her friends first viewed this videotape. And then she herself watches the video, which you should never do. And the video contains a seemingly random series of disturbing, grainy black and white images. And sure enough, after she finished watching this tape, her phone rang and someone said, 7 days. So now her clock is ticking and she only has 7 days to solve this mystery. In the end, she discovers that the cursed tape was created by a little girl named Samara, who was adopted by these two people who loved their horses more than they loved their own daughter. And the mother ended up pushing Samara down a well to get rid of her. And that's why in the tapes you see this girl literally crawling out of a well with long black hair. And at the end of the movie, Rachel goes back to that creepy cabin and she finds out that it was literally built over top of the well. So when she goes inside of it, she finds the entrance to the well underneath the floorboards. And that's where she discovers Samara's body. There's obviously a lot more to it, but that's the premise. It's an incredibly creepy movie, and if you've never seen it, you should go watch it. But I want to now talk about the true story that inspired this movie. I honestly never knew there even was a true story. Located in western Japan, Himeji Castle stands high atop a mountain, and it was built somewhere between 1333 and 1346. Now, this castle is a very popular tourist destination in Japan, and the castle itself is said to be extremely lucky, but it also has an incredibly creepy story attached to it. The story of Okiku, who died in a well outside of the castle. So this girl, Okiku, worked every day in a dungeon beneath the castle. She was basically a servant to a samurai that was named Oyama, and he took a particular liking to her. In fact, he fell completely in love with his servant. He even told Okiku that he was gonna leave his own wife to be with her. But the thing is, Okiku was not on board with this plan. In fact, she did not love the samurai, which is what ultimately led to her tragic end. One of Okiku's primary duties was to look after 10 highly valuable golden plates that were owned by Oyama. And one day he decided to hide one of them from her. He told Okiku that if she did not agree to be with him, he would blame her for stealing the plate, which would in turn lead to her execution. In one version of the story, Okiku threw herself down the castle's well, believing herself to be in a no-win situation with no way out. And in another version of the story, Oyama himself actually throws Okiku down the well. But of course, the story does not end there. After her death, she was said to crawl out of the well and appear to Oyama on a nightly basis. And he was apparently driven insane by her vengeful ghost, because she would go into his bedroom and incessantly scream at him. And that would definitely drive a person crazy. She was also regularly heard counting the plates in the dungeon, and she would throw these violent fits whenever she saw that the 10th plate was still missing from the dungeon. Drawings of Okiku depict her as looking very similar to Samara, with flowing black hair and a long white dress. And in Japan, this was a general depiction of someone who has died in unnatural circumstances. They usually look like this. The well, which is locally known as Okiku's Well, can still be found outside Himeji Castle, but it now has iron bars covering it. So people wonder if this is because they're trying to keep her spirit locked inside the well. I mean, if you think about it logically, it's probably to keep people from falling into it, but honestly, it's still a really eerie story that is said to be true. And that is what The Ring movie is based off of, which is so cool to know. So now I'm gonna pass it off to my sister Mandy, who is gonna tell her horror movie stories that are based on true events. So take it away, Mandy.
Hey guys, I'm on Jessie's channel for the first time ever for a virtual collab. I'm super excited for this, but let's hop into it. So I believe we are doing a horror movies based on real life events or based on a true story, and here's mine for you. So the first one that I found was The Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. Scary. If you die in a dream, can you die in real life? In the 1984 slasher, several teens fall victim to Freddy Krueger, who preys on their nightmares, which in turn kills them in reality. The classic has been known to give fans nightmares of their own, but what's even spookier is that Craven revealed he was inspired after reading an article in the LA Times about a family who had moved to the United States from Cambodia. Things were fine, and then suddenly the young son was having very disturbing nightmares. He told his parents he was afraid that if he slept, the thing chasing him would get him. So he tried to stay awake for days at a time. Sound familiar? When he finally fell asleep, his parents thought this crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night. By the time they got to him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare. He was a youngster having a vision of a horror that everyone older was denying. That became the central line of Nightmare on Elm Street. Dreaming about death is unsettling, although many times you wake up right before you die in your dream. There are also plenty of dream interpretations of dying in your dreams. But can dying in your dreams lead to dying in real life? Personally, for me, whenever I'm having a nightmare and something's chasing me, I know that if I jump off that cliff or if I let the thing get me or whatever, the dream will be over and I'll wake up. So usually like me dying in a dream like leads to me waking up from the dream, but I think now I'm gonna think twice about this. The second one I have for you guys is The Shining, which was based off of a real hotel called the Stanley Hotel. Stanley Hotel in the US state of Colorado is the haunted resort which inspired 1980s horror classic The Shining. The film, which sees a hotel caretaker driven to insanity by evil spirit. The Shining's iconic scenes were inspired by a nightmare Stephen King had while staying at the Stanley Hotel himself. But the real-life story of Stanley Hotel is scarier than fiction, with ghostly children seen playing on the 4th floor hallway. There have been many claims that an old landowner who died in 1926 lives in the hotel as a ghost, harassing guests in room 401. There is one which is the spookiest and the hardest to book, room 217. Allegedly, 217 is home to a long-dead chambermaid called Miss Wilson, who spends her eternal life endlessly tidying the room she's imprisoned in. Guests staying in the room have felt mysterious sensations in the night, with many reporting that they have been woken up with a poke to the ribs if they leave the room in a messy state. It was the Stanley Hotel's room 217 where author Stephen King spent a wintry night with his wife in 1974, only to suffer from terrifying nightmares. Ooh, spooky! And that's all for me. Back to you, Jess.
Alright guys, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's still fun doing virtual collabs with my sister, but obviously I prefer her to be here, right beside me. But yeah, definitely check out her new merch down below. I have linked it in the description, but I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!